Hello and welcome to Times TV's Women in the Fore. We are celebrating the Times TV's fifth birthday, and today I have the honor and the privilege of chatting with our very own Wezi Kasambala, who I think, in my perspective, is such a media personality extraordinaire. So I'm going to be chatting with Wezi today. So hi, Wezi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm still reacting to the fact that you said I'm a media personality extraordinaire.
Media extraordinaire.
You are too kind, too kind. But thank you.
Thank you. How does it feel to be on the other end today?
It's awkward. I remember I was saying to you that I have to keep reminding myself not to sort of jump in and end up asking myself questions or asking you questions. It's weird because you do it so long, but you don't realize how you yourself would answer the very same question.
The very same question.
So it's odd.
All right. So getting into the questions themselves, let us talk about your upbringing, Wezi. How was your childhood like?
My childhood, I enjoyed my childhood. What kind of a child was I? I was a very sort of outdoors child. I grew up in a family of 4. Eventually was 5. But the age gap between me and my younger sister is 10 years. Okay. So she came when I was about 10. Yeah. So you can imagine, for 10 years, I was considered the last born.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how weird it felt when my mom said to me that she was having a baby. Yeah. And I remember saying to her, when she said I was having a baby, she always retells the story. She says, Wezi asked me, is it really necessary? And I'm like, you're 40. I'm 10. Why are you having another baby? But yes, so I grew up being the baby of the family. But I grew up in the kind of household where my mom and dad were very, I would say strict, but also very progressive at the same time. Strict in the sense that they really promoted academia. They were very big on, you must study, yeah. Books. Go to university, get an education, get to know things, make sure your general knowledge is on point. So that was a big deal. Even as a child, I still remember coming home from school, and if I had tests or examinations, there was no debate. That afternoon, you would spend it revising. Only afterwards in the evening could you then go and watch TV. And at one point, TV was only designated for the weekend. There was no such thing as DV afternoon. No. It had to be only over the weekends. And in those days, there was VHS tapes. So I would look forward to, on a Friday, we'd go to, I think in those days, it was Blantyre Sports Club. And you could go rent videos. And when you look back now, it's like, we were actually renting videos of soaps from there. Which someone had put on videotapes. Wow. Because we had nothing here. Yeah. But for me, I'd look forward to the cartoons from then. So yeah, so I enjoyed... a good thing was I enjoyed the outdoors, but I also enjoyed a lot of things like reading. And I had, I think, a natural sort of affinity for words and language, and I loved English. So that was really my thing. And I think as much as, even though I grew up in a family of 4 at the time with 2 older brothers and an older sister, I was also the kind of child who enjoyed being by myself.
Being by yourself. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's still, even to this day, I think it still stands out. I don't mind my own company, and I enjoyed being able to play alone. But I guess it's also because my siblings were much older. The one closest to me is 5 years older. So they did their own thing.
They had their own lives.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when you're 5 and they're 10, 13, and 18, you kind of get left out. So I was always left to my own devices. But I managed to make my own space work and fun. But yeah, my parents were very strict, in a lot of ways, but also very open-minded. They believed in, you can go out. I still remember my siblings used to go out to parties and things like that, and I'd be sitting there on New Year's Eve. So, they're going out, they're getting ready to go out on New Year's Eve, and you're like, 10. And you know what they would get me? They would they'll say they'll take you to PTC, they'll buy you drinks, Fanta, and then they'll buy you chocolates and sweets, and you just be home. And they're going out, and they're going to have fun and club and party. So, yeah, it was weird, because I think I was lucky in the sense that my parents offered me the best of both worlds, in the sense that they didn't mess about when it came to education. But at the same time, they were very strict. You had to deliver academically. Okay.
You've spoken about your parents being strict on education and academics and everything. What did you study in university?
So, university, I did my bachelor's in media, production, or television and radio to be specific, journalism. And then after that, I did an MA in international politics. Specializing in international relations.
Was that here or?
No, that was all abroad. That was in England. Okay. So I did my primary school here and my secondary school here. I'm Blantyre based through and through. And then I left the country when I was about, 18? And that's when I then did my A-levels in England. Then I did another course in media. Strangely enough, I learned about all this camera business during that course. But no, I can't remember a single thing. I couldn't tell you what white balancing is.
What you need
but
to
they
do
taught
with
us
it,
all that stuff before I then went on to do my degree. But then I did my postgraduate and bachelor's there in the UK.
How was it shifting from Malawi and then traveling, going to abroad? Like basically change in climate and environment, and you're going to pursue a course. I'm thinking that you weren't really very accustomed to back at home.
I think it was a huge shift, and to be honest, when my my parents said, look, you're going to England, whether you like it or not. Because at the time, I must admit, it was imposed on me.
Okay.
Because at the time, I was about 18. And I'd actually started working after I finished secondary school. So my first job was actually for 101. I started working for 101.
Media extraordinaire.
Yeah. So and that's where my my I suppose liking for broadcasting came from, because I worked there briefly for about a year, and I remember doing the morning ride program, excuse me, and I really enjoyed that. So then they said, look, you can't just, the perception then and the perception even now is that if you work in radio, what are you going to amount to? With what then? You can't just be a radio announcer, then what? And that was the perception that my parents had. So they said, you can't just, if in their minds, waste away just being a DJ. You need to do more. Go and get an education. So they said, right, you're going to England, you're going to get an education. And they forced me to go. And I remember being so upset. And at the time, I felt I was so attached to home and Malawi. I thought that this is an alien country. I don't know anything about it. I mean, of course, I had my mom there and I had siblings there. But it was a huge shift. A huge shift. And I remember getting there thinking, gosh, this is weird. And like when you're talking about climate, I can tell you, nothing prepares you for it. Absolutely nothing. No way. The winter there is in another. It's on another level.
Yes.
But after I started school, started college, I got used to it, and I got used to the life. And I mean, it's a very different life. One thing I will say though is, it's the kind of life that teaches you to be responsible and independent. Because there, from a very young age, you're taught to be resourceful, to be proactive. Even from a very young age of 16, you start having to manage your own finances. You can get kicked out of your parents' house at 16 and find your own flat. So for me, that was something that I found interesting, that you become so independent there. Yeah. Whereas here you're used to, we can stay in our parents' homes forever.
Until you're 30.
Yes, until you're 30. You can relate. So you just, and there's no pressure for you to go anywhere. But there it's like, no. You're 18, you can go find a job, whether it's minimum wage, you do you. So that I enjoyed, the fact that I got to be independent, I got to study, and then I moved out of my mom's place. I had my own place. So yeah, that was fun. It was interesting. A very different world, though. Completely different world to Malawi.
So now you've got your bachelor's, you've got your master's degree. It's time to head back home. And you come back home, coming back to the home that you're attached. 18 plus years later. So you come back and you're now in Malawi. What was the journey like for you to get to where you are now? As this person that we all see on TV, we all get to say, "Oh, Wezi Kasambala." How was that change as well for you?
It was overwhelming, and I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, when I left, I was a teenager. Yeah, I came back an adult. By the time I came back, I was already 30. So essentially, my entire adult life was spent in another country. Yeah. And the way I thought, in a lot of ways, even today, the way I think is still very much attributed to where I was, to my environment there. So to come back, now it was weird because the irony was, now when coming back, when my dad said, okay, you've studied, now you can't just keep studying and then just renewing your visas to study. You now must come home. You have to come home. Come home, now actually get a job and, start your career. Because I was actually about to start a PhD and I got accepted, yes.
Wow.
But then,
PhD what?
In human rights.
Oh, right,
I was going to do a PhD in politics, specifically human rights. Wow. That's what I was going to do. And I got accepted. But then my dad said, that's another 4 years, and then what? You haven't started working it. I think maybe take a step back, go back home, and start your career. So that's when I was really against my will. I thought, okay, I guess it's time to just go back home. Let me go and start working. So I came home, and like I said, it was a huge shock to the system because I was used to life there. I'd been there most of my adult life, and things here are done very differently, incredibly differently. Everything was strange. Work ethic is different. So even though it was home, I still was really apprehensive about coming back. I remember thinking, oh gosh, how am I going to fit in? And it didn't help that indeed, because when I came back, because you've been away for so long, there's always this misconception that, well, look, you don't have the kind of experience that we need, that we want. You've been away for so long. We want Malawian experience. Yes. Yeah. So, because I've always said this, I think even when Matilda interviewed me, I said that I always thought I'd work in the NGO sector. That's what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do humanitarian work, given what I studied. But that didn't work out. And I applied, I can tell you. I applied to so many organizations. And the weird thing is, at the time, I thought this is going to be a breeze. With my qualifications, I'm going to go home. They'll hire me just like that, and I'll get one of those high-flying jobs working for UN or the UN or whatever. It didn't happen that way. And that's when it was a very quick realization that, no, you still have to demonstrate experience. And I realized no matter what, the qualifications are one thing, but without experience, no one's going to hire you. So I thought, okay, fine. And then there was this advert in the paper, and it said there's a new TV station opening, Times Group, they want someone in current affairs, blah 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 blah. So I thought, okay, everyone else doesn't want me, so I guess this kind of is kind of in my lane. This fits in with the kind of thing I want to do. So I applied, and they hired me, and that was in 2013.
So 2013, and you're literally one of the faces that have been here for times. You're one of the pioneer faces that people have been,
in fact, I think sometimes a face people see maybe even too much, to be honest with you. But yes, it was a long time ago. When I look back now, it seems like just yesterday when I came back.
You walked in through those doors.
But to think it's been 5 years is amazing.
It's amazing. How has the journey been though? When you walked in through the doors of Times and you said, "Listen, here I am. I studied media and journalism and everything else. So I present to you what I believe I can manage," and they hired you. What was it for you that kept you going, and what was the journey like for you when you started?
I think for me, the one thing that has always kept me going is self-belief. I've always believed in myself, irrespective of what I'm doing or what other people think. I'm not one to easily be influenced by a negative comment or a negative reaction to something. I believe that, you know what, I must possess some kind of a talent, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I must possess certain attributes that are worthwhile. So, and I think that's very important, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you, and you will come across so many circumstances where people are negative. People don't have faith in what you have to offer, and it can very easily knock you and knock your confidence. So what I found over the years is that, irrespective of what people say, and it's not to suggest that you don't take advice or criticism. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, if you believe you are good at what you do, the rest just falls into place. If you know what you're doing and you're good at it, the rest falls into place, because then you exude that confidence. So I've always been somebody who really has believed that, you know what, I can do this. Whatever I set my mind to, if I really just knuckle down and focus, I can do this and I can achieve this. Granted, there will be a few hurdles. Sometimes you don't always get it right. And there have been plenty. But I think the biggest thing has always been self-belief for me. And that's how I dealt with some of the challenges along the way.
Yeah, speaking of challenges, how did you manage to get your confidence and your self-esteem still on, I'd like to say 100, with all the stereotypical ideas or thoughts that people have, especially for women in media? How did you manage to sort through that? Because a majority of sorry to say, but a majority of men
Yes.
will come up and say all
Don't
these
be sorry,
things.
girl. Don't be sorry. It's true.
It's true. Unfortunately, men will have all these perceptions of women in media. How did you manage to break free from that? How did you manage to keep your self-confidence and self-esteem still going and still kicking to get you to where you are, a very confident person on TV and off TV?
I think again it comes back to, like I said, it's a self-belief. If you know that you are capable of delivering, I don't think there's anything anyone can say that will take that away from you. If you know, for example, in my case, I know, okay, look, I did this. I went to school. I got the papers, and now I have the experience. You cannot tell me that I'm not good at what I do. With that, you can really fight off any kind of animosity towards you, as long as. But you have to have the grounding first. That's the thing. I mean, there's no point being cocky and arrogant when you've got no leg to stand on. So for me, I think if you know you've worked hard, because it might be a different context. Maybe you didn't necessarily get the papers, but maybe you've worked incredibly hard to achieve something, whether it's a business. If you've worked your socks off, no one can take that away from you. No, whether it's a man or a woman, you will be able to sit at that table and own your ground, or own it. So for me, I think that's always been very important, irrespective of what I'm doing, irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman. And I certainly, and I'm sure people will tell you, I certainly don't allow somebody to perhaps, how can I put it, undermine me purely on the basis of my sex. That's not me. That's not my personality, because I believe, look, we're all equal. If I've worked hard, you've worked hard, then there's no reason why we should be treated differently. There shouldn't be a double standard because I'm simply a different sex. But again, it comes from self-belief and the fact that you've worked hard to achieve what you've achieved at that point in your life.
Have you ever experienced, like just personal stories, like a personal experience where somebody, because you are a woman, they decided, I mean, yeah, you're qualified, but I'd rather go for your male counterpart?
Well, I don't think I've necessarily had that in that specific context where someone has blatantly picked someone else over me. But you get the the overt sexism is always there. It's always very present, where that, okay, you're being treated like this because you're male. As a woman, if I did the same thing, it would be completely misunderstood, and I'll be branded something completely else, so something completely different. So that has happened, and that's happened not just here, even when I was in the UK. Those things always come up, but more so, I guess, in the workplace. Have you
ever experienced that in your field, like in the field of media where you are?
Absolutely. And I think, if anything, media is another one of those industries where that is very prominent, because I think there's a perception that somehow male media personalities are just perhaps more competent by virtue of their sex. A woman doing the same thing is not necessarily accorded the same kind of respect or, shall we say, acknowledgement that a man would get if he was doing the same thing. So it's there, and you witness it all the time. It's all around us in media. But I guess in a lot of ways it's around us in a lot of sectors. I think it's not just media. I think as women we're constantly having to prove ourselves, constantly having to fight off sexism, chauvinism, and it can wear you down. And I think it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy, in the sense that because you're so aware that it's going on, sometimes you can find yourself in a trap where
you look down upon yourself.
Not just that, because you're getting frustrated, you start to, you project. By projecting, what I mean is, now when people are trying to, even when they're being maybe harmless or innocent, you instantly have your backup. And then you're kind of now, like I'm saying, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they say, well, there you go, you see, this is what women are like. Because you're always you're always defensive because of the way you've been treated in the past, the way you've seen things panning out in the past. So I think that is sometimes the pitfalls as women we fall into. So as much as I always say, yes, don't allow people to perhaps make you feel inferior because of your sex, we also have to strike a balance and be careful and think, okay, maybe I shouldn't read into this sexism thing too much. It's difficult. But it's unfair, because I think as women we're the only ones who have to do that. Men don't have to do that. They don't have to be treading on eggshells as to whether they're being misunderstood or not. But as a woman it happens all the time. All the time. And as a woman, if you're assertive, you're strong, then the idea is you're too aggressive. But a man can be the same thing. And he's just,
he's being a man.
He's a man. He's a dominant man. He gets things done. So those are some of the kind of issues that you deal with as a woman.
As women. All right. Well, we're chatting with the lovely Wezi Kasambala here on Women on the Fore, a special for the Times TV 5th birthday. What better way to celebrate women than to celebrate our own Wezi Kasambala? We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in into Women in the Fore, it's a special one today, and we're celebrating our very own Wezi Kasambala on the Times TV's 5th birthday. Whereas we were talking about women and sexism in not only in media but as well as all the other sectors in the industry. Why is it important for women to take up leadership roles in different sectors?
I think it's important because, like I said already, because of the cultural dynamics that exist, for example, in Malawi, we come from a very patriarchal society, patriarchal leanings. So already you're starting off on not a level footing with males. Now, if you continue to sort of try and shy away and be a shrinking violet and not embrace opportunities to take the lead or to, to be successful when the opportunities are given to you, it just only serves to make matters worse for you as a woman and for all us women, because then the idea is that, there you go. I mean, women just can't lead. They can't hold senior positions, and they can't be dependable, which we all know is not true. It's false. What a woman can do, anything a man can do, probably even better, particularly when we talk about intellect. I mean, I'm not going to pretend physically we're the same. We're not. I think that would be rather folly for one to say we're equal completely. We're not, but certainly up there I think we're the same.
We're the same.
So it's incredibly important that when opportunity arises for a woman to be able to progress and to enhance her career and climb up the career ladder, it's so important to seize the moment and grab that opportunity. But I think I can sort of understand why sometimes ladies get intimidated.
So shy and
yes, because
kept in a box in a corner.
Because you think, well, you know what, once I get there, they're just going to trample all over me. Perhaps when I get to the top, it's going to be dominated by men anyway. Yes. My voice won't really be heard. And then in some cases as well, women are there just as window dressing. So you might have maybe a senior position, but it might not necessarily be effective because you're there because, well, the company has to look as though they have
gender balance.
Yes, there's a gender balance.
Yes.
So you find that in some cases, women, yes, as much as these days, I mean, I know this from the women I speak to all the time. We have so many powerful women holding so many senior positions, doing business, doing big things. But there are also those who I'm sure are there just to sort of tick a box. And no woman wants to be there just to tick a box. We see it in politics a lot. You find, now we're talking about 50-50. Yes, there's this whole 50-50 campaign for women parliamentarians. But you find critics who tell you that, well, as it stands, even the ones that are there, that exist, they feel as though they're only there to just serve a purpose of, well, we fulfilled a certain quota. But their voices are not really heard. So it is a bit sad. So I think what we need to do is really try as much as we can to seize moments, but also create the opportunities. Sometimes opportunities don't just land in your lap.
Yeah,
I think you have to work towards something
and push and strive.
Yes, you need, if you want people to be noticed, you need to work for it. It's not just going to come on a silver platter. No one is just going to say, hey, do you want to be a promotion because you're a woman? No, it doesn't work like that. As obvious as that might sound, you really have to work towards it. But I think the biggest challenge for us women is we know that once we get there, it's still a hard battle. Particularly when you get to the top, it's even worse. Because the stakes are even higher.
Yes. Just trying to prey on the little ones.
And the stakes are even higher because there's more pressure on you to prove that I'm a woman in this position. I'm not going to let you down. So I think that's even more of a burden on women in a lot of ways.
How can women stay relevant in such situations where they feel, even if I make it to the top, I'm going to be met with all these obstacles, or if I'm only here because, you know, the company wants a gender balanced sort of picture when they're going out to the to the public. How can women still manage to stay relevant in the spaces that they work and not feel so, and just basically just shut out all the negativity, all the negative thoughts, all the negative energy, and still strive for what they believe is what they deserve, which is to be recognized?
I think you've actually answered the question already, because you said you just shut out all the negative energy. I think, because essentially that's what you need to do. You just need to be able to say, you know what, this is my task. Someone is saying, right, we want you to be financial controller or head of whatever department. That is your focus. That's what they're putting you there for. And they've put you there because they've seen something in you. They wouldn't do it if you didn't have that. Yes, they wouldn't do it if you didn't have the capabilities to do it. So you really just need to say, this is what I've been given. I'm going to do it irrespective of all the noise around me. Switch off. But also constantly develop. I say this all the time. It's so important to continue to learn in different ways. Continue to enhance what you already have, whether it's extra courses, whether it's taking on extra responsibilities and those kind of things. I mean, the typical cliches. We say they're cliches, but they really do help, because only then can you continue to stay relevant, because otherwise the next best thing is just going to walk in and then you're irrelevant. So, or the next man, God forbid, will walk in and then you're being reminded again as to why you're just a woman. So it's important to forever learn and continue to develop ourselves. I think it's so important.
Wezi, I think for people who had the opportunity to be with you, around you, and share your company, they could say that you are somebody who's opinionated, but only when necessary. when it's
I'm
needed.
glad you've qualified that, because I think I'm not just opinionated for the sake of being opinionated.
Yes,
but go on.
But somebody who you say what needs to be said at the time that needs to be said. Have you had any role models or people around you that have influenced that nature?
My whole family. You're right. Yes, I think I'm certainly not one to bite my tongue unless I absolutely have to. And my life is at stake. But I think that comes from, my family. My brothers and sisters are just like that. They're the kind of people who just tell it like it is. We certainly don't mince words. If something is off, it's amiss, you need to be told. There's no point, beating about the bush. Honesty is the best policy. You say it. But also I think it's better that way, because it then takes away, the element of confusion and ambiguity. Sometimes people misunderstand you because you just weren't clear.
Yes.
Or sometimes you find you get passed over for things because you didn't express yourself. You didn't say, let's say you're not happy, something's going wrong, and you keep quiet. And then you wonder why this keeps happening to you, particularly in the working environment. Yes. So I think it's important to speak up, but speak up when it's necessary, and also be able to know that, okay, this is probably not a good time to talk. I guess you could say I am opinionated and very, very outspoken. Yes, that's true. Okay. But I hope it serves me well. I certainly hope so. I don't know. Sometimes you just never know whether you're doing more harm than good. So it remains to be seen whether it will serve me good in the long term.
Before we go, Wezi, 5 years here at Times.
God.
We're celebrating.
Oh, okay, that.
We're celebrating
to see yourself in 5 years.
No, we're gonna get to that, but we're celebrating you here for 5 years. How has it been 5 years? Being on, TV, one day you see Breakfast Live and she's doing Constitution and she's doing Times Recap, all these programs. How has it been 5 years?
It's been an amazing experience, I must admit. I'm not gonna lie, it's not been smooth sailing. It's by no stretch of the imagination has it been smooth sailing, but for the most part, and I hope this comes across, I really do pray it does come across, I enjoy what I do. I really do enjoy what I do. I never thought I'd be able to sit in front of a camera or behind a microphone and, derive so much pleasure and joy from what I do, from entertaining people, educating people. It's something else. No matter how angry or upset you are, or how things are going elsewhere, whether it's personal, family, whatever, somehow once you're in this space and in this zone, we're able to, and I think that's a knack that we've developed as people in the media, broadcasters particularly, you're able to switch off, and then you suddenly realize, you know what, it's about the viewer, it's about the listener, and you just enjoy it. So for me, and like you said, I love the fact that I get to do so many different things. But I think that's also important, not to stay boxed into one thing. Because then if you have diversity, the job becomes less monotonous and you just have fun. So I've enjoyed my 5 years. It's had its ups and downs. 5 years ups and downs. I can tell you, I certainly won't be doing this. I can put my hands up and say I will not be doing this because look, it's exhausting. It's fun, but it's exhausting. We might look like, you know, glamorous and everything, but it's hard work. You would know.
Girl.
It's hard work. So in 5 years, I really hope that I'm doing something I love. Hopefully still media related, maybe. But certainly not getting up at 4 a.m. That's for sure.
Okay. Wezi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For letting the viewers know the Wezi Kasambala that they enjoy on Women in the Fore. And I hope that everybody also back at home enjoyed and got to know a little bit of who Wezi exactly is. That was our special Women in the Fore today for Times TV's 5th birthday. We do enjoy the fact that you're always watching, and please do keep watching. Until next time.